Hello, Walt. How you doing? Thank you very much for doing this with us. We appreciate it.
No problem.
We're going to talk about the time machine here for just a second, and I'll let you get into it. But tell us a little bit about the advantages, disadvantages of this sled. There's a lot of them out there, but what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, a couple of things. You know, one of the best team ropers in the world one time told me, he's a seven-time world champion. He told me, he said, the most important aspects of healing is timing. He said, you can do a lot of things right, but if you're not in time, it's hard to catch 5 steers in a row. So all the machines that was been out, and I've been doing roping school since I was 19 years old, and I'm quite a bit older than that now, but at all the schools and all the sleds that are out, they don't have front legs on them, so you can rope them when you're completely out of time. When the hind legs are all the way forward, you can bring your rope in from the side, and you can catch them. And like at a clinic, right after that, you can rope the sleds, and then you can go to the steers, and the percentages are way down because people hit the front legs. So I came back, and a friend of mine's an engineer, and we got to talking about it. And I said, is there any way you could not let someone get rewarded for throwing out of time? So he said, well, why can't they catch a steer? I said, they have front legs. He said, well, why don't we put a sled with front legs on it?
Yep.
I said, geez, that's a great idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
so anyway, that's what this is all about.
Perfect. And Walt, is it okay if they shout out questions, if they have a question?
I would love that. But
Okay.
a lot of times people don't ask questions.
Good deal, good deal. Well, y'all, it's a laid-back deal. I want to let everybody know this is streaming live on NRSworld.com. If you have a question, shout it out to Walt. Walt, we appreciate you being here. I'll let you do it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Okay, well, that's just kind of gives you an idea of how this got started. It really got started. I had a clinic in Canada about 2.5 years ago, and they had a sled. And listen, I think sleds are great. Make sure that you understand that I think sleds are fantastic, because I learned how to rope on a sled made out of a hot water heater. My dad went to the dump one time and found a hot water heater at the dump, and it was like he'd found a golden diamond ring. I was just, oh, look at that hot water heater. So he brought it home, and he cut out a hole, and he welded some legs on it, and he welded some skis on it, and he put a head on it, and he made a pipe, and he welded that on it, and we took an old gunny sack, and we wrapped it around there so it wouldn't cut our ropes. And I learned a tremendous amount roping that sled. I learned how to get in position and follow the steer and put a dally on and make my horse track the steer. And when I heeled it, I would rope and dally and not let my horse quarter. And I actually worked on the turn and, turning and making my horse follow it and staying in position for several swings. But the one thing that I didn't learn is timing, because the legs didn't move. And so when you get on a steer, shocker, the legs move. And if you never have practiced that, you don't know how to do it. Okay, so what I found out is that at doing roping schools, the existing sleds, and remember, I like them, I'm not taking a shot at them, but there's something missing, and that is that you can catch them when the legs are all the way forward. And you can't catch a steer when his legs are all the way forward, because his front legs are all the way back, and you hit the front legs. And also, I'm opposed to, like at the clinics, and when I was younger, I wanted to show everybody in the world that I was right and everybody else was wrong. I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to show you my way and the things that I've experienced at the clinics. And at the clinics, people try to bring their rope in from the side. And I don't believe it goes in that way. I think it goes in from the tip. Hey, can I see that chair right there? See that chair? Yeah. Bring it out here if you would. And just set it there facing me. Right there. Okay, when you're trying to heel, the tip of the rope is what leads it under. And if you try to bring your rope in like this, it won't go in that hole. The only way in that hole is if it goes in tip first. So you've got to have your tip down, and then you stop your hand and let the end of the rope go through first. That's how the rope goes in. If you look at the rope at the NFR tonight, that's how the structure looks. So it's tip first. That's how it goes in. And just a minute ago, I was over there sitting there waiting for my turn, and there was a little boy roping a sled, or roping a dummy, and he kept trying to do that right there. Well, that doesn't work. It doesn't work on a steer if you're not in time with him. You can do that if you're in time, but it doesn't work because, like when I was a kid, they told me take my sawhorse and tie it up off the ground. And I said, the steer doesn't look like that when I throw it in. The steer's feet aren't off the ground. So how does that apply to me? When I throw at the steer, his hind feet are on the ground. So if I try to bring the rope in from the side, it always hits his leg and just falls over, and I never catch. They said, well, that's how everybody does it. So I just started asking logical questions that didn't make sense to me about roping things that were up off the ground. So I think you have to learn how to start your tip in first. So that's the number one thing we try to do. Okay, that brings us to when I started putting on roping schools, people would miss. And as soon as they would miss, they'd say, oh, I didn't start my tip in, or I dropped my elbow, or I didn't follow through. All these different things that people have said forever. In reality, the reason that they missed is they were out of time. Okay, a couple of years ago at the U.S. Finals, kids won almost every roping. They didn't win the Gold Plus, and they didn't win the Century. You know why? Not old enough. But if they were of age, they won almost every single roping. And you know why that is? Because they know how to get in time. And you know why? Because in the parking lot, they follow each other around and play the inside leg game. They rope the inside leg. So if next time you go to a roping, look out in the parking lot and see what you see. There are kids following each other around roping the inside leg. How many times do you ever go to a roping and you look out in the parking lot and there's two 60-year-old men roping each other? All right, Larry, take off. And Larry takes off and Bob's after him. I mean, older men just won't do it. So when kids play the inside leg game, they don't get rewarded falsely. There's only one way to catch, and that is learning to be in time. So the way that you learn, the way that kids learn how to do it, is that when his left leg is back, my tip is down. So my tip is going to be down at 2 times. It's going to be down when it's back and down when it's forward. Okay? So he's going to walk, and here we go. Down, 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 down. Got it. That's timing. And that's what kids do. They learn how to do that. And they're not rewarded falsely for throwing and catching when they're out of time. Because if I try to throw when Kevin's left leg is forward, and I try to throw at the leg, I hit that leg and I don't catch. So I can't be rewarded. But on most of the sleds that are out, you can be rewarded for throwing when you're out of time, because you can still catch them when the legs are forward, and you can't do that on a steer. So, and another thing they told me as a kid, you gotta really wind it up. You got great ropers swing their rope really fast. You ever heard that? You gotta crank it up. That's ridiculous. That's not right. They said, oh, the reason that great ropers swing their rope really fast is because the steers are hitting the ground really fast. If you went behind the chute tonight and you asked a saddle bronc rider, how fast do you spur a bronc? What would he say? 27 miles an hour. He wouldn't say that. He would say, depends on how fast he bucks. I don't know how fast I'm going to spur him, but every time his feet hit the ground, my feet are going to be forward. He's learned timing, right? That's the only way he can ride him. Okay, so kids learn this by, okay, this time Kevin is going to walk faster, and my swing is going to be faster. Down, 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 down. That's timing. Okay, this time he's going to trot by with no swings, and I'm going to rope him as he trots by. Okay, so all that is just timing, right? And I learned that as a kid by tracking a track steer around. A steer that you just follow around, and he's like a trained seal. He just gallops around, and every time his feet are back, you go down, down, back. Except it's too hard to train a lead steer. They won't come off the fence, they go too fast, or they trot, or they double back. It's just almost impossible. Or I had a kid the other day come there, it wasn't a kid, it was a man, and he goes, you suggested that I rope track steers, and he said, I got my horse all jacked up roping a track steer. He said, we got 2 Bramers at the sale, and we can't catch up to him. That's not what a track steer ought to be. It ought to be a Holstein on Ace Promazine that just gallops around real slow. But you can't hardly do that. People don't want to do that, and you almost have to have somebody turn your lead steer back to learn how to do that. So that's why we came up with this. I wanted a machine that you could not catch out of time. If you threw when the feet were forward, when the hind feet were forward, the front feet should be back and you should miss. So you can try to rope this all you want to, but you cannot catch it. And at the schools, the sleds that I had experienced at the other roping schools that I put on, people would throw completely out of time and look at me and say, was I in time that time? you were 180 degrees out of time. And they would always respond to you by saying, but I caught. So I thought about maybe putting a dog collar on people, so if they threw out of time, shock them. But that's not practical. You know what I mean? And you got to say, just stop shocking. It will stop throwing out of time, man. So, but you've got to have some way to learn timing. And you know how you do that is you get on a sled and you rope a sled for hours. I was at my training center the other day and there was a guy, I put him on the time machine. I said, go out there and get out, because he had trouble with timing. The guy's 50 years old. I said, I'm going to go over there and shoe a horse, and I got my guy and he's going to pull the sled for you and you rope it. The whole time I'm over there shoeing the horse. I was over there about 10 minutes. He came over there and was watching me. I said, what are you doing? Roped it. For how long? 10 minutes. He said, I'm exhausted. Ty Murray came to my house the other day and spent the day roping. He just was invited over and we came over and spent the day. He said that when he was riding, he had a daily workout that included sit-ups. How many sit-ups can you do? I did 70 this morning and was exhausted. How many sit-ups do you think you could do? How many sit-ups can you do? Ty Murray would do 2,000 sit-ups in a row without stopping. 2,000 sit-ups. And he said the only reason he stopped at 2,000 is he was tired of counting. It wasn't because he couldn't do more sit-ups. I got a guy that can't rope the sled more than 10 minutes because he's exhausted. And Ty Murray's doing 2,000 sit-ups. Something's wrong. So in order to learn timing, you got to get out there and you got to follow that sled around, and you have to learn now, back, down, now, back. And another thing, people say, well, how fast, I hear that all the time. We're over at Mandalay Bay and everybody goes, how fast does it go? You shouldn't be worried about how fast it goes right now, right? I mean, it'll go as fast as you want to drive the four-wheeler. It'll hit the ground as fast as you want to go. Is that how you should rope it right now? Of course not. I ask people all the time, when you learn how to drive, who taught you how to drive? Most people say, well, my dad taught me how to drive. My father taught me how to drive. And I remember what he said when I got in the car. Go slow. Take it easy. Be careful. I don't remember him saying, get on the freeway and haul butt now. Go on, speed out there, merge into traffic. I don't remember him saying that. You learn everything that you do by going slow and just plugging along and taking your time. Another thing that I wanted at the clinics, and I hear this all the time, and my dad used to say this all the time. He would always say, my father hit and I healed, and he used to say, I don't know why I hit. I just turn steer after steer and nobody catches for me. And if he wouldn't have been so violent, I would have said, well, Dad, Christ couldn't catch for you. You handle him so bad. But he was a violent man, and so I didn't ever get to say that to him. But maybe if you're not getting steers healed, it's because you don't handle them very well. The number one thing that killed me when I was a low number heater is speed. You know, people talk about the National Finals being a hard place to rope, and it is a fairly hard place to rope. But it's only because of the noise and the pressure. You want to have a place that's hard to heel, Cheyenne. You know why? Because the steers are going so fast. They're hitting the ground 1,000 miles an hour. At Cheyenne, they let the steers 40-foot head start, and they've never been roped. And you come out and you just cruise along and you look up, nothing. You just look like, I mean, you don't even get it. When you look up the second time, there's a little dust. You're getting closer to them. I mean, it is hard to rope there. They are hitting the ground so fast. Okay. The handle, the key to the handle, to me, is learning how to bend the steer's neck before you go left. So getting the rope tight. Okay, so when you run up to this sled, we've designed the sled so when you rope it and you set your horse, the neck will bend. And you can see that while you're still parallel. Then you follow it along with the neck bend, and then you stop your horse and the rope comes off. I had a kid the other day at the clinic, at the roping school there at the training center, and I showed him that. He said, does the steer's neck bend? I said, yes, and you should know that. So I've never seen that happen. Usually I'm going that way. I know. That's why the handles are so bad. You know, the famous line that headers always say is, well, he was loose when I caught him. Well, he would be better off loose. He would be easier to heel if he was still loose the way you handle him. So that's something that we try to get people to do, and that's really helped at the clinics. It's trying to get people to rope it, and also dallying on a tight rope. When you see guys that can really rope, when they pull their slack, their rope is tight. And when they dally, it wobbles. They don't run up there and rope and dally, and their horse is still going forward, and they dally on a loose rope and then leave on a loose rope. Pro ropers don't do that. They pick their horse up and they get their rope tied, and when they dally, it wobbles, and then they bend the steer's head while they're still parallel. Hey, and another thing that we try to get people to do on this machine is, like at a school, you'll rope a sled. If they have a sled there, they'll rope the sled, and when they dally, their horse moves laterally away. Lateral movement is a wonderful thing, except there's a step before lateral movement, and that's called whoa. That's called speed adjustment first, before lateral movement. So that's what we try to get people to do on this. We try to get them to get in a position, put a dally on, bend the head, follow it with the neck bend, then stop the horse, stop him, and then if you want to move laterally, you can. But I think that's so important. But learning timing, and listen, structure I think is really important. Learning how to throw structure. Like they take people that are just real beginners and they say, oh, you got to learn timing right now. Not right now. Not right now, you don't. You need to learn how to get in position. And you need to learn your swing. And you need to learn to start your tip in. And you need to put your bottom on the ground. But saying that timing is not an intricate part of team roping is ridiculous. You've got to work on timing to advance your roping at any level. So you have to learn structure, position first, structure second, and then work on your timing. So those are all things that were really important. Hey, I want to say one more thing. A lot of people say, can you dally on it? Yes, absolutely you can dally on it. But you got to slide some rope. You can't just dally and just rear back and try to tear it apart. You know, the number one thing that people say all the time at roping schools is, should we dally on the steers? And everybody's been told, when you go to somebody's house, everybody says the same thing. Don't dally, don't dally. You know that we dally on every steer at our house? Every steer we dally every time. You know what we do when we dally? We slide some rope and we let our horses trickle forward and the header undallies. Your practice steers should not limp out of the arena. Right? You know, when I was a kid, my dad said, dally and rear back, dally and pull back. I got invited to Leo Camarillo's house when I was about 17 years old, and he would rope the steers and slide rope and let his horses walk forward. Him and Gerald both would do it. And one time I said, how can we do that? He said, so we can dally every time and make sure our horses are not quartering. It lessens the jerk on our horses and make sure that we can dally and practice dallying, and it saves our steers. I went home, I told my dad, you got to call that Leo Camarillo, he's all screwed up. You don't do it like we do it. We dally, by golly, they limped out of the arena. Yeah. I tell people at roping schools, dally. If you catch a leg, when I was a kid, they said, don't dally on a leg. Don't dally on a leg. Well, that's all I ever caught. Because I didn't rope very good. Then I'd go to the rope and I couldn't dally. People say, you don't dally very well, because I never do it. I tell people at the clinics, if you catch a leg, if you catch the header's leg, dally. Any tug you feel, dally. Anyway, those are the things that we did. That's how we come up with this sled. And, you know, you can work on the corner if you want to. You know, you can come out of the box and work on the corner, but what we try to do when we work on the corner is we try to accelerate through the turn. Because, you know, a header, they rope wide, and when they dally, they're not very far from the towing position. They're wide. And, hey, another thing people say at the clinics all the time, well, I watch the National Finals. You should watch the National Finals as entertainment, shouldn't you? These guys are the very best ropers in the world. And the reason that they can rope so wide is because they rope so good. Those steers are way out there. And the reason they do that is because it doesn't take them very long to start towing them. And when you're wide, you know what? You can't slow the steer down. Well, that works great when you're heading for Clay O'Brien. You just catch the head and take off and say, get him, Clay. You're not roping with Clay. You're roping with Larry, your neighbor. Get him, Larry. Get him. Larry needs to slow him down because Larry don't do it very well, right? So speed kills Larry, and you got to slow him down. Hey, something else. Do you know that there are people that get killed team roping every year, and it's just a tragedy when they do it? Because they rope too narrow. The number one reason that people get hurt and killed team roping is they get too narrow to the steer. They get too straight behind him. Then the steer moves over in front of him and it clips heels with the horse, and the horse falls over and bumps their head. Okay, well, we designed this to where our rope won't come off. The rope will not come off if you rope it too straight behind it. If you rope straight behind, the horns will go up, but the head won't bend and the rope won't come off. So it's designed that way. The only way it will come off is if you're in the roping position. If you are 2 to 3 foot left of the steer, so that when you dally, it bends the head and it tells you that you were wide enough so you can bend his head and follow it along, and then the rope comes off. So I think those are things that are really, really important. And like if you went to roping schools with me, you would see why people can't catch. You would see why they can't rope the horns and why they can't catch the hind feet. Oh, it'll be different in Australia. No, it's not. It'll be different in Puerto Rico. No, it's not. It's the same everywhere. People do the same thing wrong everywhere you go. The same things hold people back. Hey, and back to dallying. Learn how to slide rope. When you dally, learn how to slip rope. If you catch a steer and the header's running off with a steer, that's why we can dally every time, because we slide some rope to it every time. We don't just rear back. The guy the other day cut his thumb off on a sled. It wasn't our sled, but it could have been our sled. It wasn't, but it was a sled. And you know what he blamed it on? The guy that was pulling it with the tractor didn't stop in time. You gonna stop the tractor? You can't stop the tractor. And he wanted to stop. He just missed the clutch. He just kept right on going. Well, he rears back and tries to stop it. Well, of course it's going to suck his hand in there. You know, they make us rope in those Pro-Am ropings. We go to those, they have open ropings and they have a Pro-Am roping before that, and they tell you that you don't have to rope in the Pro-Am. You don't have to, but they take the added money from the Am and put it in the open. And you don't have to rope in the Pro-Am. But if you don't rope in the Pro-Am, you don't get invited back to the Open next year, but you don't have to rope in the Pro-Am. Make sure you know that, but you really need to rope in the Pro-Am. And nobody wants to do it because a lot of times you just got your good horse there. That's all you got. So you got to rope in the Pro-Am. And I heeled this year for an Am, and I mean, some of the ropings are really cool. But Rich Skelton had one down there in Bernie, and down there by where he lives, and it was wonderful. It was a true amateur, bankers, attorneys, guys that had never roped before. I mean, barely roped. And this guy turned me a steer, and I heeled him as soon as he turned, and I dallied. And I looked up, and the guy was kicking his horse, trying to get him to pull. And I was dallying, and so I just started sliding rope and just following him along. He drugged me for quite a ways, and all of a sudden he looked at Jesus. He turned around and he said, "When did you heel him?" I said, "Shortly after you turned him." But what are you going to do with that guy? You're going to dally and rear back on that guy. What do you think is going to happen if you dally and rear back on that guy? It's going to flip him over. You can tip that guy over. You can jerk him over backwards. And he, you know, but that's not what he does for a living. So that's really important to learn how to slide some rope, and that way you can dally. And you can dally on your practice steers, and you can dally on your sled, and you can do all those things. And the last thing I want to talk about that sleds do, and of course we want you to buy our sled. We think it's the best one, but something that sleds help you with is your horsemanship. You want to become a better roper, become a better horseman. Wouldn't that make you a better barrel racer, a better cutter, a better team pinner, a better everything? Just learning how to be a better horseman. You know, the easiest school that I ever had, they flew me to Maui and they asked me to train their polo players they wanted me to teach their polo players how to team rope. Easiest thing I ever did. And these guys have been following something with the reins in their left hand, a mallet in their right hand, chasing something that's changing directions that's this big around. The little guy from France that I helped with this roping with a polo player, he said, "We're following a 500-pound ball. This is the easiest thing I've ever done." Yeah, because they can really, really ride. And I heard something not long ago, and I hope this is not true. Is you know how to, if you ask 100 horse people to lope around in a right-hand circle, how could you tell the 20 people that are team ropers? The 20 people that's loping around on the wrong lead and don't know it. God, I hope that's not true. I had a guy at a clinic one time lope by me on the wrong lead. I said, "You're on the wrong lead." He said, "I know it." I said, "Well, change it." He said, "He doesn't like the other one." Well, he doesn't get a vote, right? So, anyway, sleds are great. You have a lot of options here, and I really appreciate you looking at our sled and considering it when you're thinking about buying one. So, thank you for listening to me. I'm grateful. Thank you.